a country that will give them some hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're not doing that. That's why I'm hoping that people will rise against the political class now. We need change, and it can happen. We did this in 2020. We don't have all the time to go back, but maybe some other time. But in 2020, 2012, 2013, 2014, when a lot of Nigerians thought it was impossible, I'm proud to say I was part of the team that did it. We showed it was possible to defeat an incumbent government. We showed it was possible to actually remove a government that was incompetent, that allowed Boko Haram to mess us up, that had allowed corruption to run away with everything. And we put Buhari. We thought Buhari was going to be the Messiah. We were wrong. But at least it was done.
Hakeem Ahmed in that Arise TV interview, hoping that Nigerians will do the needful and stop listening to narratives that put fear in them. This is doable. It has been done before, like he said. And one of the most important things he said in the Arise TV interview is that 2027 presidential election is between Nigerians and the political class, not North versus South, like many people are making it to be. Yes, this is another narrative that borders on gaslighting. You see people saying, Tinubu must be allowed to finish his 8 years in power, as if it is his God-given right to spend 8 years in office. As if performance in office is no longer a yardstick that the electorate will look at and say, okay, let's vote him again for second term. As if it's no longer the people that decide who leads them. They are obviously planning to rig the election, but that would depend on Nigerians. If on that day, majority of Nigerians troop out in massive numbers and say, no one is rigging an election in my polling unit or any collation center near me, then they will run away, they won't have their way. But if they fall for their narrative and not bother to come out to vote or participate in the election, then they will have their way. The politicians would have won in that instance. These people are not up to 5,000, the people holding this country to ransom. Remember, they are not even divided by political parties. You can see the way they are moving from PDP to APC. They just have a common purpose. They have one goal. And that goal has nothing to do with national interest. It's all about their interest. The politicians might hate each other because they contest against each other in elections, but when it comes to uniting against Nigerians, they unite despite the fact that they are strange bedfellows. Just like Okowa, who has been yapping around in many interviews justifying why he decamped to APC, he doesn't have a single shame. Someone that contested a position under PDP as high as vice president, he has decamped to another party and he's here trying to convince Nigerians why he decamped, that Tinubu must be allowed to spend 8 years.
Beyond all this, for the stability of this nation, I also do believe that, yes, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was elected president in 2023. And for the stability of Nigeria, it is best for us to have him complete his 8-year tenure.
The arrogance is sickening. What they are indirectly telling Nigerians is that yes, we impoverished you. We introduced policies that reduced purchasing power, reduced our GDP by about 50%, but you can't still do anything about it. You can't stop us from continuing in office. Think of this for a moment. When Yar'Adua came to power, he accepted that the election that brought him to office was seriously flawed. What did he do? He tried to appease Nigerians by reducing the petrol price. This one came to power through another flawed process. Instead of appeasing Nigerians and telling Nigerians, hey, let us unite. We understand that the election was flawed, but I still have something to offer. Nigerians are very nice people and easy to convince. Instead, he introduced policies that have practically killed off Nigeria's economy, causing many multinationals to leave the country, causing massive unemployment. Nigerians have never had it so bad. There is no metric you can use to measure any sector in Nigeria's economy that is doing well. No, all figures are in the negative. Everything he met, he has practically done worse than he met them. On top of all this, he's still shouting Emiloko. So Nigerians should take on the challenge. Even a CEO of a small company cannot be this arrogant. When shareholders are looking at the numbers of his performance the past year or 2 years, he can't be arrogantly telling them to renew his mandate, that he's doing better when the figures say otherwise. So Nigerians must take on the challenge. If they don't take on the challenge and fall for their narratives and vote for the people they tell them to vote, because all these people decamping have followers, they will come back on election day and tell them, please let us support this person. And if you fall for that and vote for them, then your suffering continues. Just like El-Rufai said in Kano, that all the people decamping to APC today, including governors, all elected officials, especially in Delta State, that it is of no consequence because everyone has one vote. A governor has one vote, deputy governor, House of Assembly members, everyone one vote each. So if you fall for them and go and vote the person they tell you to vote and sell your vote and collect 10,000, 5,000 that cannot even buy you food for 1 week, then you have to live with your decisions after the election. Now, let's address one concern of many. Many genuinely believe that no matter the effort Nigerians put in on election day, that if INEC is not reformed, that their votes will never count. Yes, there are people who genuinely believe this, not the ones that spread narrative to scare people from coming out to vote on election day. One quick response is that Nigeria's problem has never been about laws. It has always been about implementation and enforcement. Law enforcement agencies are not independent. Before they act, they always take orders from one boss, that if you trace that boss, you will see that he's a politician. So politicians make the decisions for law enforcement agents. So once they are interested in a particular case, the law enforcement agents will look the other way and pretend they are not seeing what is happening. So this is our problem. This doesn't mean that INEC reforms are not important. No, they are very, very important. In fact, INEC reforms have changed our electoral system the past years, as you can see here. If we go back in history, in the Fourth Republic, you can see that since the introduction of beavers in 2015, you will see that despite the fact that our population grew to about 190 million at the time, the number of voters actually dropped. Yes, because of introduction of technology. Unlike in the early days during Obasanjo's administration, where we used to have 20-something million for a candidate, under Yar'Adua it was 24.6 million. Of course, you are aware that election up to today, INEC never released any state-by-state tabulation of the results. No, it doesn't exist. They just wrote those figures and the courts approved them. Also, if you look at the 2019 presidential election results between Muhammadu Buhari and Atiku Abubakar, you will see that our population as at that time was about 209 million. Despite that, the number of voters remained nearly the same. 15.1 million for Muhammadu Buhari and 11.2 million for Atiku Abubakar. So there is no doubt that the introduction of technology into our electoral system has helped our elections to be freer and better. Unlike before, when people could just churn out any figures they like, all the KKK states, they used to churn out millions of votes each time. But this time around, especially in 2023, when INEC even introduced IREV, where election results are supposed to be posted online, these election results are supposed to be used for collation. At any level of collation, the collation officer is supposed to consult the IREV copy first and use that to compare with others and collate the results. But instead, we all know what they did in 2023 presidential election. They shut down that IREV, so people couldn't be able to post their election results. Once they did that, the collation officers around the country started writing all sorts of results they wanted. There was no reference again to make to cross-check the results to make sure that they are original copies. So that was how they rigged the 2023 presidential election. And when you look at the electoral law amendment proposals that INEC submitted to the National Assembly, there is nowhere that it mentions IREV. Remember the excuse the courts gave during the presidential election tribunal? They said that there is nowhere in the electoral law, neither in the constitution, that it mentions that INEC must transmit election results through the IREV or other electronic means. That it just said that INEC has the authority to decide how to transmit election results or how to conduct elections. So does it mean they want to continue the ambiguity surrounding IREV? INEC introduced IREV in 2023. It cost Nigeria at that time around 300 billion naira. At the end of the day, IREV was shut down, whether it was a glitch or not. The most important thing is that IREV wasn't used to determine the presidential election results. The presidential election is the most important election. If not, they wouldn't have spent 300 billion naira for the election. But at the end of the day, someone pulled the plug. Right now, they have the opportunity to amend the laws to make sure that transmission of results through electronic means, through IREF, is mandatory for every election. They are not taking that opportunity. Amendments INEC is proposing is the use of printed slips from their website instead of PVCs. Imagine going backwards. PVC is a card. They are paid to print these cards. There's still enough time. Election is still about 2 years away. They can order more equipment to be able to meet up the demand to make sure that everyone that is eligible, everyone that is up to 18 years gets the PVC in order to vote in 2027. But instead, they want people to go to their website and download the slip, go and print it themselves, and when they come to the polling station that day, they will be allowed to vote. It remains how it will work, but this is inefficiency. They are pushing that burden to Nigerians instead of doing their jobs. Another amendment INEC is pushing for is the appointment of RECs for states, resident electoral commissioners. Right now, it is the president that appoints resident electoral commissioners, but INEC wants the law to be amended so that INEC can appoint these people. If they are the ones appointing them, they will be also the ones that can sack them if there's a need. Ordinarily, this is the way it's supposed to be. Someone that has an interest, someone that is contesting an election, cannot be appointing the person that is going to conduct the election. It doesn't make sense. But in Nigeria, anything goes. They can defend anything. If the lawmakers are true to themselves, they want to preserve democracy in this country, they should make sure that even INEC chairman is no longer appointed by the president. Political parties can all be appointed into the board of INEC. And among themselves, they can elect the chairman that can serve only 1 year. After that 1 year, they will conduct another election and another chairman will emerge. Or they can push it to themselves. Let them request for nominations from Nigerians. If they nominate 2 or 3 people, then the National Assembly can approve one person and that person becomes the chairman to serve maybe 1 year or 2 years, so as to make the election at least look transparent. Most people can still be bought with money, whether the person appointed him or not. But remove that authority from the president to appoint INEC chairman or other board members. It doesn't make any sense. But we'll continue to turn around in circles thinking that we will grow. We'll never develop once we keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Thanks for watching.